Hello everybody and welcome to the channel, and this is just going to be another ramble rant video. I'm probably going to be doing a lot more of these unscripted rants in the near future. As you may or may not know, I still have a housing situation problem, which makes sitting down, scripting, recording, and editing long-form videos kind of difficult, so I'm looking for alternative ways to engage with the channel, and I figured just chatting about whatever comes to mind is an excellent way to do it. So you're going to see some more of these, including a follow-up to this specific video, because today I'm going to be talking about why so many TCGs don't seem to last all that long. You see, if you looked at Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Force of Will, Flesh and Blood, etc., you'd be kind of led to believe that TCGs just go on until their producers stop producing them. But that's not really something that they have a whole lot of control over. You see, there have been dozens, maybe over a few hundred, card games released since 1993, when Magic the Gathering first entered the gaming space. It was a cult hit right out of the door. It was beloved. Everybody wanted some of it, and it inspired so many companies to make their own attempts at capturing that card game space. And in the 30 years since, there have been a lot of failures, and the vast majority of them only last about 2 years or so. And some of these card games are very good, some of them are very bad, some of them are kind of middle of the road, but why they fail isn't always easy to hammer down. But there are some things you can look at. The big one is always, if it's a bad game, it's not going to last long. It doesn't matter how popular the IP is, if it's based off of something like Star Wars, or Star Trek, or Doom Troopers, or whatever. You know, there's only so much an IP can take you. So if, for instance, I don't know, a James Bond card game comes out and it's absolutely dog shit, it doesn't matter how popular James Bond is, that card game is only going to last a year or two at most. And that's the leading cause of most card games dying, but it's not the only one. You know, in I want to say 1995, there was a Middle-earth collectible card game released by, if I remember correctly, Iron Crown. Don't quote me on that because I might be wrong. And it was a fairly good game. It was well received. It was easy to pick up. It had amazing art. I've got some sealed packs here I'm going to show off on the channel at some point in the future. It was very good. I personally thought it was great. It had several sets, but the problem was licensing. Later on, I want to say in 1999, the holders of the game's license lost that license to, I believe, Decipher, and the production of the game had to end just because they no longer had the license to Lord of the Rings to make Lord of the Rings cards. And so that's another thing, is occasionally you can just lose the license to whatever you're producing, and the card game has to die as a result. That's actually why Wizards of the Coast lost Pokemon. Their contract to produce it in the West expired, and Nintendo decided to just kind of not renew it with them. So they were just like, yeah, no, it's ours. It's Pokemon belongs to Nintendo, and we're going to be producing it from here on out. I remember hearing about Wizards of the Coast being really salty about that and trying to fight to keep it, but obviously that didn't work out so well for them. There are two other reasons that a card game could end that I think really are impactful over the years, and the first is just lack of interest. Regardless of how good or bad a card game is, there just might not be a market for whatever it is. I very distinctly remember the Simpsons trading card game from, I want to say 2003, just didn't have a lot of advertisement behind it and didn't really capture anyone's imagination. It just kind of came and went without any fanfare. The other reason that a lot of card games just kind of end is lack of interest from the developers. Lack of, I don't want to say it's not profitable, but you know, that kind of is it. It just isn't pulling in the numbers that they want. Famously, the Transformers card game, which died fairly recently, actually. was ended because of this. Wizards of the Coast, or I should say Hasbro, thought that they were going to rake in a lot of money with the Transformers on the card game market. And it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as they wanted it to be, and it wasn't as profitable as they wanted it to be, especially since they tried using really experimental card technology. Like, those cards folded, they were oversized, it was expensive to produce packs. It was a whole thing, and it just didn't work out as well as they wanted. It worked out well, don't get me wrong, but not as well as they wanted. And I believe it's important to remember that a lot of card games have come out in the last 30 years, and a lot more card games are going to come out over the next forever, until card games stop being produced, which is probably going to keep going on. And several of them will, I believe, be long-lasting card games. Flesh and Blood, for instance, I think is going to be a card game that lasts for a while, until it finally has something catastrophic going on with it. I believe Magic the Gathering is going to go on for a while. I believe even the Digimon card game, which I was recently very pessimistic about, I believe that that's going to stand the test of time. Maybe. I hope I'm not wrong about that. But as the years go by, and as more and more card games come out, we're going to see a lot of card games just kind of die out of nowhere. One that's out right now that I definitely think will be dead within the next 2 years is Star Wars Unlimited by Fantasy Flight Games. It just released a few months ago, and look, I like Star Wars. I don't think Fantasy Flight Games is the worst company, but this is like the 10th attempt at a Star Wars TCG. The first set came out, and it was fine. I bought a box, sold the singles. It was okay. But the mechanics don't look all that impressive. The artwork kind of looks all over the place. And Fantasy Flight Games does not have a great track record when it comes to keeping their games functioning long term. They've got a lot of failures under their belt. Feel free to look them up whenever you have the chance. It's a story. Really, it is. So keep in mind, and I know that sounds kind of like a Nancy negative kind of rant, but just because a game is dead doesn't really mean that you can't enjoy it. And I'll get more into this in my follow-up video, which I'll be doing later this week, hopefully. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday, I don't know. Sunday's Mother's Day, so I might just be busy all day. Just because a card game is dead doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. There are loads of very good card games sprinkled throughout the last 30 years. And it's just kind of like retro video games. There's a lot of old retro video games that don't have sequels or follow-ups or updates, new releases on the new platforms, but they're still good games that I think anyone can go back and try and enjoy. So if you ever have a chance, I can strongly recommend a long list of dead TCGs that might just be worth playing, even just with you and a friend. And something I want to be very clear about, just because I'm pessimistic towards the overall future of these TCGs that come out every year, doesn't mean I don't plan on enjoying them. I try every new TCG that comes to market as long as I'm aware of them. If they have a demo deck, I will always grab the demo deck and give it a shot and earnestly try to enjoy it. If it has just starter decks, I will try to get starter decks. I know it sounds kind of contradictory. Lore, you're saying that these TCGs will be dead in 2 years anyway. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy them for what they are regardless. And there's a lot of TCGs that are dead that I think are amazing, and I think that's going to continue to be the case going forward. Just because I believe that this TCG won't have new support in 2 to 5 years doesn't mean I'm not willing to give it a try and hope that it's going to be good. There's plenty out there that if you were just going to be pessimistic and let that pessimism control your actions, you would miss out on so much enjoyment in your life, I think. So when it comes to TCGs, yeah, you can be the realist and the enjoyer at the same time. And I strongly recommend that you do both at the same time. Give everything a shot, but at the same time, don't get too attached. Anywho, that was my little nonsense ramble rant for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the end. If you enjoyed, leave a like. If you really enjoyed, subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. And if you really, really liked, then consider joining me over on Discord, where I ramble on about kind of whatever comes to mind. Thank you so much for enjoying, and have a great day.